You hope the day never comes, but sometimes Mother Nature can be harsh. So how do you deal with an extreme weather event? In this segment, we'll learn how to be prepared if a weather disaster strikes at home. Joining me today is Mark Peterson from FEMA. That's the Federal Emergency Management Agency. We'll talk about some of the small things and large things we can do to be prepared. So Mark, the #1 natural disaster in America is flooding.
That's right, and everybody's at some level of flood risk, whether that's from overland flooding from heavy rainfall, or because you're in a high-risk area near a creek or a river, or even stormwater backup. Everybody's got some level of risk. Water in your basement, even a couple inches, is a disaster to that homeowner. So it's an important thing to do a couple of things to potentially mitigate that risk.
Okay, let's start small. What are a few small things that a homeowner can do to be prepared?
Something as small as elevating your mechanicals like your HVAC system or your washer and dryer, appliances like that on your lowest level. Elevating them on a cinder block, a couple of inches, can potentially prevent you from having to replace thousands of dollars of appliances.
Now, I know a lot of people store valuables and mementos and keepsakes in their basement. Good idea or bad idea?
Well, it depends. It depends on how you store them and whether they're up off the ground. But if it's something you really don't want to have to replace, make sure it's out of the basement. Another thing you can do is add an elbow or drain sleeve to the end of the downspout of your gutter. This will keep water pushed away from your foundation so it doesn't come back into your home. And something that's slightly bigger is consider installing a flood control system like a sub pump or a backflow valve. And if you do have a sub pump, make sure you have a battery backup system so it keeps working when the power's out.
How about larger things that we can do to be prepared?
Right, so the #1 thing to protect yourself financially from the impact of flooding is to buy flood insurance. Everybody is at some level of risk, and most homeowners insurance policies don't cover flood. So you want to make sure that you have the coverage that is right for your risk.
It's a good idea not to assume anything when it comes to your homeowner's insurance. Like Mark said, flooding might not be covered. So sit down with your agent and talk about your policy and other hazards that might affect your home. Flooding, earthquakes, sewer backup, and wind events. Mark, winds can also be destructive to your home, whether it's a hurricane, a tornado, or just a storm front moving through. So how can we prepare for that?
Most critical thing to do is to make sure you know where the safest place to go when severe weather is threatening your area. And that's usually going to be the lowest level of your home. But if you don't have a basement, go to an interior space that doesn't have windows.
What's something small that a homeowner can do to prepare?
Something as small as removing overgrown or dead or dying tree limbs and securing outdoor furniture is a great way to remove the threat of projectiles flying into windows or damaging your home. It's a great idea to secure large bookcases or furniture to the walls. That'll help them from falling over and potentially hurting somebody.
Okay, how about something on a larger scale?
If you live in a tornado-prone area, you might want to consider a residential safe room. These are structures that are specifically built to protect you for a short amount of time during severe weather. It's so important to keep our families safe and prepared for all types of hazards. So one way to do that is to have an emergency supply kit for your home. And that's going to include some basic items like food and water for 3 days for each person in your family. It might also include a first aid kit and a flashlight and some extra batteries. And if you have some special considerations like medication, you want to make sure you have that in there too. And also, if you have pets, don't forget about them. You want to make sure you have food and water for them as well. You know your family best, so you want to make sure that you have the right supplies for your family. And if you have a situation where you need to keep medication cold, it might be a good idea to have a generator ready to keep that power going. And a lot of times, we're not home when disaster strikes, and we're not all together. So we want to make sure you have a communications plan that lists all the important phone numbers that you need. So we want to make sure we have those written down. FEMA offers a free app, and this app provides great information for a variety of different hazards. It also allows you to have weather alerts for up to 5 locations. So if you happen to have a son or daughter that's off to school, you can set an alert for their location and let them know if severe weather's approaching.
There's so much more to cover on this topic. We could spend days talking about it, but there's so much information at your disposal. We'll put up some of that information and links next to this segment on our website, HouseSmartsTV.com.